On the 11th day after her grandmother's death, Mara realized the mirror had started blinking before she did.
Welcome to my YouTube channel. Here you'll find great educational content. Hit subscribe and join our community.
Day 11. The 11th day was the first time Mara noticed her reflection hesitate. It happened at 6:17 in the morning, in the thin gray light before sunrise. The house was quiet except for the tick of the hallway clock and the soft groan of old pipes waking in the walls. Mara stood in front of the bathroom mirror with a toothbrush hanging from her mouth, foam at the corners of her lips, her eyes half-lit with sleep. She blinked. Her reflection did not. It was a small thing, so small that she might have dismissed it if she hadn't already been counting the days. 10 days earlier, her grandmother had died in that same house, in the small bedroom at the end of the corridor. 93 years old, stubborn until the end, and fiercely protective of certain rules. Superstitions, Mara had always called them. Never whistle after dark, never cut your nails at night, and above all, never cover a mirror unless there has been a death in the house. On the night her grandmother passed, Mara had forgotten. The paramedics had come and gone. The house had filled and emptied with neighbors bringing casseroles and condolences. The priest had murmured prayers in the living room while Mara sat in a fog on the sofa. Through it all, the hallway mirror had stood uncovered, reflecting strangers' bowed heads and the flicker of candlelight. It wasn't until the third day, when she found a fine crack running like a silver vein across its surface, that she remembered. 7 years. Her grandmother had once whispered when Mara was a child and had dropped a compact mirror onto the bathroom tile. 7 years for each shard, unless you bury them in moonlight. Mara had laughed then. She hadn't laughed when she saw the crack. It wasn't a full break, just a hairline fracture splitting the glass from top to bottom, so fine you had to tilt your head to catch it. The mirror had not fallen. No one had touched it. Still, she fetched a sheet and draped it over the frame.
Day 11. The 11th day was the first time Mara noticed her reflection hesitate. It happened at 6:17 in the morning, in the thin gray light before sunrise. The house was quiet except for the tick of the hallway clock and the soft groan of old pipes waking in the walls. Mara stood in front of the bathroom mirror with a toothbrush hanging from her mouth, foam at the corners of her lips, her eyes half-lidded with sleep. She blinked. Her reflection did not. It was a small thing, so small that she might have dismissed it if she hadn't already been counting the days. 10 days earlier, her grandmother had died in that same house, in the small bedroom at the end of the corridor. 93 years old, stubborn until the end, and fiercely protective of certain rules. Superstitions, Mara had always called them. Never whistle after dark, never cut your nails at night, and above all, never cover a mirror unless there has been a death in the house. On the night her grandmother passed, Mara had forgotten. The paramedics had come and gone. The house had filled and emptied with neighbors bringing casseroles and condolences. The priest had murmured prayers in the living room while Mara sat in a fog on the sofa. Through it all, the hallway mirror had stood uncovered, reflecting strangers, bowed heads in the flicker of candlelight. It wasn't until the third day, when she found a fine crack running like a silver vein across its surface, that she remembered. 7 years, her grandmother had once whispered when Mara was a child and had dropped a compact mirror onto the bathroom tile. 7 years for each shard, unless you bury them in moonlight. Mara had laughed then. She hadn't laughed when she saw the crack. It wasn't a full break. Just a hairline fracture splitting the glass from top to bottom, so fine you had to tilt your head to catch it. The mirror had not fallen. No one had touched it. Still, she fetched a sheet and draped it over the frame. That was day 3. On day 4, she dreamed of her grandmother standing in the hallway, tapping the glass with a fingernail. On day 5, she heard faint knocking at midnight, 3 slow taps, from somewhere near the front door. On day 6, she found her reflection smiling faintly when her own mouth was a straight line. By day 7, she had started counting in earnest. She told no one. Now, on day 11, she stood in the bathroom and watched as her reflection stared at her with bright, alert eyes while her own felt heavy. Foam dribbled down her chin. She spat into the sink and wiped her mouth. The reflection wiped a moment later. A delay, barely perceptible, but there. Mara leaned closer to the mirror. The glass was cool against her fingertips. She studied her own face. Dark circles under her eyes, a faint crease between her brows, hair tangled from sleep. Perfectly ordinary. The crack from the hallway mirror wasn't here, this one was intact. Stop it, she murmured to herself. Her reflection's lips moved, but no sound came. Mara froze. The movement had not matched her own words. Her reflection had said something else. A ripple of cold ran down her spine. She stepped back sharply, knocking her hip against the sink. Pain flared, grounding her. You're imagining things, she said, louder now. This time, the reflection followed perfectly, mouth shaping the same syllables. She stood there for a long moment, breathing hard, until the ordinariness of the room reasserted itself. The toothbrush, the soap dispenser, the small potted plant wilting on the windowsill. She laughed, thin and brittle. Grief does strange things to the mind. That afternoon, she decided to remove the sheet from the hallway mirror. If there was a curse, or a spirit, or whatever nonsense her grandmother had believed in, hiding the mirror wouldn't solve it. It would only feed it. The sheet smelled faintly of dust when she pulled it away. The mirror underneath gleamed dully in the afternoon light. The crack was still there, bisecting her reflection into two halves that didn't quite align. For a heartbeat, she saw herself as two separate people. One on the left, one on the right. The left half blinked. The right did not. She stumbled backward, heart pounding. The image snapped back into unity, her own startled face staring at her. Enough, she whispered. She touched the crack. The glass felt warmer than it should have. That night, she dreamed again. She was standing in the hallway, but the house was wrong. The walls were closer together, the ceiling lower. The mirror loomed at the end like a doorway instead of a decoration. Its surface shimmered like water. Her grandmother stood beside her, younger than Mara had ever seen her, hair black instead of white, back straight, eyes sharp. You left it open, her grandmother said. Left what open? The door. The mirror rippled. From within it, another Mara stepped forward. Identical in every way, except for the eyes. The other Mara's eyes were empty, like polished stones. Every mirror is a mouth, her grandmother continued. When someone dies, their reflection doesn't know it yet. It lingers. If you don't cover the glass, it finds its way out. Mara tried to speak, but her jaw wouldn't move. The other Mara smiled. Mara woke with a gasp, sheets twisted around her legs. The clock read 3:03 a.m. 3 slow taps echoed from the hallway. She lay frozen, listening. Tap, tap, tap. The sound came from the direction of the mirror. No, she whispered into the dark. No, no, no. But she was already getting out of bed. The hallway was colder than the bedroom. Her breath fogged faintly in the air, though it was late summer. Moonlight poured in through the window at the end of the corridor, illuminating the mirror in a pale glow. The crack seemed wider. She approached it slowly, each step deliberate. Her reflection approached from the other side. They stopped a foot apart, separated by glass. Mara lifted her hand. The reflection lifted its hand. For a moment, everything was normal. Then the reflection's fingers kept moving, stretching impossibly long, pressing against the inside of the glass. The surface bulged outward, like a membrane. Mara screamed and stumbled back, falling hard onto the floor. The mirror's surface stilled. Her reflection was once again ordinary, staring down at her with wide, frightened eyes. She scrambled to her feet and ran to the kitchen. She grabbed the first thing she saw, a heavy cast iron pan, and returned to the hallway, breath ragged. If this is how it works, she muttered, then we end it. 7 years of bad luck. What was that compared to this? She raised the pan and swung. The impact was deafening. The glass exploded outward in a cascade of shards, raining down onto the hardwood floor. The frame split. Splinters flew. Silence followed. Mara stood panting amid the wreckage. The mirror was gone. In its place was darkness. Not the darkness of the wall behind it. Not drywall or studs. Just depthless black. Cold air poured out of the opening, carrying a faint scent, like old perfume and something metallic. Slowly, from that blackness, a hand emerged. It was her hand. Or rather, it looked like hers. The skin was pale and smooth, unmarked by the small scar near her thumb that she'd gotten as a child. The fingers were too long, the nails too sharp. It gripped the edge of the broken frame and pulled. The other Mara stepped out of the darkness and onto the hallway floor, bare feet crunching on shards without flinching. They stood face to face. You weren't supposed to break it, the other Mara said. Her voice was identical, perfectly matched in pitch and tone. Mara's mind reeled. What are you? She demanded. I'm what you left behind. The other Mara tilted her head, studying her with unsettling curiosity. When she died, her reflection lingered. You didn't cover the glass. It wandered. It found me. Found you where? In the space between. The other Mara smiled. I've been waiting. For what? For you to let me out. Mara's heart hammered. She glanced past the figure into the darkness behind it. Shapes moved there, shifting like shadows in deep water. How many? She whispered. The other Mara followed her gaze. Enough. A flicker of movement in the blackness resolved into faces. Dozens of them. Men, women, children. All staring outward. All silent. Reflections without owners. You see, the other Mara said softly, when a body dies, the reflection doesn't. It stays trapped unless someone remembers to close the door. And if they don't, it learns to walk. The other Mara took a step closer. Mara stepped back. You don't belong here, Mara said, though her voice trembled. Neither do you, the other replied gently. Not anymore. The hallway lights flickered. In the kitchen, a glass shattered. Mara's mind raced. If breaking the mirror opened the door, perhaps sealing it would close it. She darted forward suddenly, shoving past the other Mara. Her shoulder collided with cold flesh. It felt solid, real. She dropped to her knees before the opening and began grabbing shards of glass, ignoring the way they sliced into her palms. She pressed them against the blackness, as if trying to reassemble the mirror by force. Stop, the other Mara said sharply. The darkness pulsed. A hand shot out and grabbed Mara's wrist. It was icy. More hands followed, reaching for her arms, her hair, her nightgown. She screamed and struggled, kicking backward. Her heel connected with the other Mara's shin. The figure hissed and staggered. Mara wrenched free and scrambled to her feet. Grandma, she shouted, though she didn't know why. The air shifted. For a brief moment, she saw her grandmother standing in the doorway of the bedroom at the end of the hall. Not young, not old, just as Mara remembered her best. You left it open, the apparition said calmly. So close it. How? Mara sobbed. Trade places. The words landed like a stone in her stomach. The other Mara straightened, eyes gleaming. Yes, she said softly. That would work. No, Mara whispered, but the hands were reaching again. The darkness was widening, spreading beyond the frame, creeping along the walls like spilled ink. If it consumed the house, where would it stop? The neighbors, the street, every reflective surface becoming a doorway. Mara thought of all the mirrors in the world. She made her choice. Before she could think better of it, she lunged at the other Mara and wrapped her arms around her. The sensation was like plunging into freezing water. They struggled, locked together. The other Mara's nails dug into her back. Fool, the other hissed. You'll be trapped. Better me, Mara gasped, then everyone. She turned, dragging the other toward the opening. The hands reached eagerly. With a final burst of strength, she shoved the other Mara into the darkness and followed. Cold enveloped her. The hallway vanished. She was falling, not downward, but inward. Faces rushed past her, whispering without sound. She felt them brushing against her skin, searching for purchase. Then she landed on solid ground. She stood in a corridor identical to her own, but reversed. The mirror frame was intact, whole. Through the glass, she saw the real hallway. The opening was sealed. On the other side, her body, occupied by the other Mara, lay crumpled on the floor. It stirred. Slowly, it sat up. It looked directly at the mirror. At her, a slow smile spread across its face. Mara ran to the glass and pounded on it, screaming, but no sound carried through. The other Mara rose gracefully, brushing shards from her nightgown. She examined her hands, flexed her fingers, and laughed silently. Then she turned and walked down the hallway, disappearing into the house. Mara was alone. Behind her, in the mirrored corridor, shapes began to gather. Reflections without bodies. They watched her with hollow eyes. Somewhere, far away, a clock ticked. Day 1, she thought. And this time, someone else would have to remember to cover the mirror. DXS.
Hey, follow my YouTube channel and receive new upcoming videos from my channel.